Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets and our co-host, Zacks Small Cap Research, we are very pleased you have joined us for our quarterly conference. Our next presentation is from Conavi Medical. Please note, you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for a one-on-one meeting by clicking Book Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Tom Luby, Chief Executive Officer of Conavi Medical, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol CNVIF, and on the TSXV under the symbol CNVI. Welcome, Tom.
It's great to be here. Thank you, everybody, for attending. My name's Tom Luby, and I'm the CEO of Conavi Medical. Conavi Medical makes imaging technologies for the most common, minimally invasive cardiovascular procedure. Our product, Novasight Hybrid System, is the first and only commercial system to combine ultrasound and optical imaging methods to enable simultaneous and co-registered imaging of coronary arteries. Our first generation product has been cleared in 4 geographies in the US, Japan, China, and Canada. And we have been evaluated at major heart hospitals, both in the US and in Canada. And we are slated for a commercial launch of a next generation product in early 2026. We recently closed on a 20 million Canadian dollar financing with institutional support that is expected to fund the company through that commercial launch. So we have a differentiated technology. We are the first and only company to combine ultrasound and optical methods in a co-registered fashion. We have strong IP that covers this, and we're deploying this technology into a large and growing market space in intravascular coronary imaging. There have been recent guidelines improvements that are now encouraging use all over the globe. And we have been in a phased commercial rollout in heart hospitals in the US and Canada to evaluate our value proposition in those hospitals. And 3 years ago, we started off on the next generation development of Novasight that we plan to launch in early next year. And recently raising $20 million helps us with this entire program. So to start with the market space, there are 4 million coronary interventions that are performed each year. All of them are guided by angiography, which is quite simply a moving X-ray taken from outside of the body. And you can see that in this image, angiography shows where blood is flowing and where blood is not flowing, but it does not provide a lot of rich detail about what's really going on in the blood vessels. For that, intravascular imaging has been invented to take a look inside of the blood vessels to help guide therapy. And today, sales of catheters for imaging account for about $700 million of revenue each year. But that is thought to be growing at a faster pace now because the market has received hundreds of millions of dollars in development in the form of clinical trials. At the bottom of the slide, you can see a recent publication from the Lancet that summarizes in a meta-analysis 22 of those randomized controlled trials, including more than 16,000 patients, with the headline being, if you use imaging, you can reduce cardiac death by 46%. You can reduce stent thrombosis or blood clots by 52%. And this has led guidelines improvements from societies all over the globe. Most recently, the Europeans elevated guidelines for the use of intravascular ultrasound, or IVUS, or OCT, to a Class 1A guideline. And then in February, the American Heart Association followed with an improvement to Class 1A guidelines as well. But what does that all mean? Guidelines are, clinical evidence is the foundation. Guidelines start to suggest, how to use and when to use these products. We also need to reach physicians where they're being trained. And most training centers are training their doctors on both intravascular ultrasound, or IVUS, as well as OCT, the optical form of imaging. But what they have not been able to see until we came along is the combination of two in the same product. And then, of course, everybody knows that reimbursement is important also, and we're seeing higher payments in several geographies around the globe to encourage the use of imaging because of these great outcomes that we just spoke about. So the current intravascular imaging alternatives are quite simple, simply ultrasound as a standalone modality. This is the most familiar and most used by interventionalists. It provides a greater depth of penetration within the blood vessel, which allows them to overview the size of that vessel and to choose a stent size that is appropriate. And it does not require contrast to do this. The other imaging variety, optical, or sometimes we call it OCT, it's less commonly used. It has limited depth of penetration, but it does bring with it 10 times greater resolution when compared to standalone IVUS. It does require contrast to flush and acquire the image. So what happens practically is a physician will work up a patient, schedule the appointment for the procedure, and then they will choose an imaging modality that they will use for the entire procedure. We are showing the strengths and weaknesses of intravascular ultrasound and OCT side by side, and you can quickly see that where IVUS excels, OCT struggles, and the other way around. But recall, once you start with an imaging catheter, you're going to use that all the way through because the hospitals and the doctors don't want to pay for 2 different catheters and spend twice as much time imaging. So they will give up on having the best imager at certain points for that reason. But we have taken that problem off the table. We have combined both imaging modalities into the same catheter. You can see this on the right-hand side. This is a depiction of a blood vessel surrounding the heart, and you can see our catheter that has been placed up through the femoral artery or up through the arm to cross the lesion of interest or the blockage of interest. And so this imaging head has both an ultrasound transducer, and our novelty is that we've embedded an OCT laser beam within this construct. This catheter spins at a very high rate of speed, and when it crosses over the lesion, it creates a video that the doctor uses to assess the size of the blood vessel, the presence of different lipids, and other things like that. So again, we are the first and only one that combines this in the same catheter. So we provide the best of both modalities without any additional time or cost. It doesn't cost any more because our current strategy is to price our catheter at the same price as single modality IVUS or OCT. Again, we are cleared in 4 geographies for our first generation, and we've got great patent protection for what we do. So we can claim, I think quite confidently, that we provide the best of both modalities for whatever situation the interventionalist finds themselves in during the procedure. So that's us speaking. I'd like to provide some third-party validation for what we're saying here. This is a paper that was published in September of 2024, and the doctors who were assessing all of the various guiding modalities of imaging, you can see that IVUS is strong for the first 2 parts of the procedure and is weaker later on. OCT is the other side of it. It struggles with stent under expansion and stent edge plaque, but it does a better job throughout the rest of the case. When you combine IVUS and OCT, as Conavi has uniquely done, we are green across the board for the top 6 parts of how interventionalists, what they have to do during their case. I want to point out another technology at the bottom of this table called OCT NIRS. This is another technology that is, most recently been launched. And the reason why I comment on this, because as a business, they were able to achieve a financing recently with a backer from a strategic with a very good valuation. And I want to just point out that I think that we very favorably compare to this modality. And this will be important because I think it will become attractive for strategic interest in the next year or 2. So our value proposition, we address these unmet needs. I think we create economic value for hospitals because they can buy a single system from us and it can behave almost as if it's 2 systems, a standalone IVUS or a standalone OCT. But even if a doctor would prefer one or the other, what they quickly realize is that having both makes interpretations easier. It reduces the guesswork because they do have the best of both modalities at any point in the case. And so with an aging population all over the globe, by the time patients present with symptoms, there can be a lot of things going on in the vasculature surrounding the heart. So you will really need to have IVUS and OCT to assess those patients. So as I mentioned, we took our first generation Novasight to top heart hospitals in the US and Canada. We gained their feedback. We wanted to understand, did this value proposition work for them? And it certainly did. And we also realized that we wanted to improve upon the imaging for both the ultrasound and the optical view that we were providing. So 3 years ago, we started on our next generation development that we have come to the conclusion of. We've retired all the risk. But what we set out to do and what we have accomplished is that we've improved the ultrasound imaging to 60 megahertz. It's a very clear and sharp image. The optical imaging depth has also been improved. We believe that these are category leading for IVUS and OCT. But we also know that the products need to be easier to use. We were hearing a lot of complaints about the prevailing products and the cath lab. And so we wanted to simplify them with very thoughtful hardware and AI-based improvements that will make this product the preferred one to use in the cath lab. And then for our business, this is the one that I think we've built in the ability to scale the product and to achieve attractive gross margins at that scale. We recently raised $20 million in a financing in April. We're very excited about that. And what that affords us to do is prepare our FDA submission for later on this year. It'll be in the second half of 2025. It is a 510(k) application, and we are using our own first generation product as its predicate. So we believe that the regulatory risk is quite low. We will complete the usability and system validation. We'll do that with key opinion leaders. We'll publish some white papers that these key opinion leaders have already written. And then in early 2026, when we get the clearance from the FDA, we will be ready to go to launch into the marketplace. When we do all this well, we think that we become an attractive target for acquisition at some point. There are several major cardiovascular franchises that sell a lot of products into the marketplace, both capital and consumables. Some of them have imaging, but they only have ultrasound or optical, but not both. As I said, Conavi is uniquely positioned to have both IVUS and OCT. And in the coronary space, there really are two kind of acquirable companies that are not part of a larger business, for example. And one of them I mentioned a few slides ago that has an excellent OCT product, but has the limitations that OCT has. We think that they're a good company and we like what they do, but we think that perhaps you would consider that our product has more information that can help guide doctors in their therapy. So if we do our job well, we think that we will be an interesting target. Also having imaging in a portfolio will help these strategics unlock maybe even greater value in some of the therapeutic products that they have in their portfolio. So we recently had this financing, and here's a look at where we are today. Our market cap is in the mid-30s Canadian. You can see our common shares, our warrants outstanding. This last financing that we did without warrants. So these are warrants that were brought about when we went public in October. We do have some insider ownership that's locked up. Now, we also have some opportunities for additional financing that could be in the non-dilutive category. We do hold the patent portfolio for Titan Medical's surgical robotic products. And we are also understanding that that is becoming a hot area, that perhaps maybe there's some ability to monetize those patents even further for us. That will help us extend our runway and to achieve these milestones that I just spoke about. We also have a partner in China. They are commercializing our technology there. We've passed recently a milestone in December, and now we're in the phase where we'll collect royalty stream moving forward. Along the way, we've attracted a strong management team. I've had the opportunity to be a part of some interesting, groundbreaking medical device businesses in the past. Have helped to divest some of these businesses as well. You can see my CFO, Stefano, and we were joined recently by Sumit and Bob to help us kind of round out a management team that has been kind of working at this technology for a bit. This is a look at my board of directors. Some of you guys may know some of the folks on this page, but just in summary, I would say, really great support from our board. A lot of great experience building and also selling businesses down the line. So that's Conavi Medical in a nutshell. As I mentioned, we have a system already cleared in the marketplace, but our next generation system is ready to go. We're just doing final testing and preparing our file for the FDA. We have a unique offering that combines two pretty well understood modalities, but the combination of them we believe is really valuable, and it's going to help patients live longer lives, we think. I will pause here now and look forward to answering any questions you may have. Okay, I have a question here for what is your go-to-market strategy and sales channel for Novacyte? So we will start, we still have some capital constraints, but we want to go and launch into the same hospitals that we have current product in. And then we have a sales funnel for beyond there. We will probably we won't staff up so that it is a complete total blanketing of the United States. We will probably limit our first foray into a limited geography and then expand beyond there. There is the chatter that we get from strategics and the conversations we get from them. They tend to indicate that they know about our technology, they know about us, they want to see us get FDA clearance, they want to see us be used in some hospitals. And then I think that we don't have to get too far in our commercialization before maybe we become attractive takeout. So I have a question about, can you speak to the strength of your IP portfolio in the competitive field? We have a strong IP portfolio. It has locked out others who would want to do what we do. Our origin story, from about 10 or 12 years ago is that we weren't the only ones that wanted to combine ultrasound and optical imaging. We just got there first, and our patents have kept out other people from doing that. And then after 3 years of development on the next generation product, we have some opportunities to extend our current portfolio and also expand it. So we're very excited about doing that. Yeah, so can you share any of the hospitals who are using your platform? So we have been used at Cleveland Clinic, Emory in Atlanta, New York Presbyterian is probably the biggest user, Montefiore, and also in New York. So those are like a handful. And then Sunnybrook Hospital also in Toronto, where the technology really matriculated from in collaboration with our company. I will wait for a second to see if there's any other questions, but that pretty much, I think, exhausts the ones that have been sent in already. I appreciate those. Great. So thank you, everybody, for listening and for your questions. And hopefully this is an exciting prospect for you. What I would like to do maybe is, in summary, I look at building this business with sort of 4 risks in mind, right? Is the market there? Can it be developed? Is it ready? Does it understand the kind of products that we have? And the answer for that is yes, and it has actually gotten quite exciting in 2025 with the new guidelines and so on. Can the technology be made to be reliable, et cetera? We have just come through 3 years of development, and we have retired all of that risk. And so we feel like that the technology risk is low and there's a great market fit. The third area is the regulatory risk, and it's a 510(k) application, a 6-month nominal, review time. We are our own predicate, so we believe that brings the regulatory risk quite low. And then recently, with the $20 million financing, it helps us with the last risk, which is the capital risk. Can we get enough fuel in the tank to make this company sing? So I'm very happy to present to you that we have 4 of those risks in really good shape for our company. So I will end here. I thank you for your attention. Please also, if you want to reach out to me at tom.looby@conavi.com. That's tom, T-O-M, .L-O-O-B-Y @conavi.com. Thank you.